Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shabbat shalom. This is your brother Kazak Yah, Priest Kazak Yah from MalachiMinistries.org. And today we have a special treat as we continue along in our series on the subject of the finished works of Christ. This particular segment of the series, the finished works of Christ, is on the subject of grace. Now, we've chosen a base scripture as a foundation, 2 Peter chapter 3, starting at verse 14. Wherefore, beloved, seeing that ye look for such things, be diligent that ye may be found of him in peace, without spot and blameless, and account that the long suffering of the Master Yahshuwah. Now, once again, I reiterate this. Wherever we see this King James substitution, Lord, the Father's name was replaced with Lord primarily in the Old Testament. Let's continue. Even as our beloved brother Shaul, also according to wisdom given unto him, have written unto you, as also in all his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable wrest, as they do also the other scriptures, unto their own destruction. Verse 5, by whom we have received grace and apostleship for obedience to the faith. You see that? So he said he received grace and apostleship for obedience to the faith among all nations for his name. So he received the grace, as we just read, he received the grace and the apostleship for the obedience to the faith. Grace is from the Greek word charis, 5485 charis, which it says from 5463, graciousness, as gratifying, a manner or act, abstract or concrete, literal, figurative, or spiritual, especially the divine influence upon the heart and its reflection in the life, including gratitude. Grace is obtained not by works, and this is all our beloved brother Shaul was saying. Grace does not mean that because you was given grace that you don't have to be obedient. So before we get to all these other places in the scripture, he laid the foundation, brothers and sisters, in this particular letter to the Romans, to let them know that grace and apostleship was granted for the obedience to the faith. I'm not going to go to James, but I'm going to kind of mention it because you know that James makes mention and says that faith without works is dead, because faith is the other side of grace, you see. Because you're saved by grace through faith. Okay, and I think Shaul says it in another letter, which we'll get to that eventually. But you're saved by grace through faith is what he's saying. What is faith? Faith is the substance, in Hebrews it says, of things hoped for, the evidence of things that are not seen. So we are saved by grace, not of works, because the works is a result of the grace. It is the grace that has given us the ability to be saved. And our reaction to the grace is manifesting the fruit, which shows that we are what? We are operating in the grace. So if you say you have grace and you're not manifesting the fruit, then it's a possibility that you don't have the grace. Romans chapter 1 verse 16, and it reads as follows: For I am not ashamed of the good news of the Messiah, for it is the power of Elohim unto salvation to everyone that believe, to the Yahudim. Now, I want to just kind of make a note here. Jew is a modern substitution terminology. Okay, the nation of Israel had 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, Yehuda, commonly known as Judah in today's transliteration, is one of the 12 tribes. Every Israelite was not from the tribe of Judah, or where we see the King James substitution Jew. These are the people that Shaul was ministering or reaching out to during this particular time in history. The Israelites, those who came back from the captivity, those were the primary two people that Shaul ministered to. The Israelites that came from the captivity, and the Greeks who were in the land of that particular day and time, the Greeks and the Romans. I'm going to read something for you, and I'm going to show you out of a book called the Book of Maccabees, where the Israelites were persecuted for being righteous people. And they were the ones that passed laws to forbid the Israelites from circumcising their children and from keeping the seventh-day Sabbath. They passed a law that if anybody was found keeping the Sabbath day or circumcising their children, they were going to be killed. Verse 17, for therein is the righteousness of Elohim, therein is the righteousness of Yah revealed from faith to faith. For as is written, the just shall live by faith. Now, faith is an action word. It's not just believing. Okay, we're going to show you something in a minute. Okay, verse 18, for the wrath of Elohim is revealed from heaven against all unrighteousness, okay, of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Verse 19, because that which may be known of Elohim is manifested in them, for Elohim, for Yah is manifested in them, for Yah has showed it unto them. So the righteousness, or the obedience, the lifestyle of righteousness has been given to every man. So he says, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood rather by the things that are made, even his eternal power and might, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew not Yah, they glorified him not as Yah, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Just like we see today. People are vain. The world as a whole are more carnal than spiritual. And many are attendees to some mosque, temple, synagogue, or church, but are still carnal. It's the end thing. It is the normal thing to be fleshly and carnal and not to be spiritual, right? Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the uncorruptible Yah unto the image made like unto corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Wherefore Yah also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of Yah into a lie, and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. Now, for this cause, watch this now. We're laying the foundation for the book, epistle of Romans, because you can't go to all of this, we're not saved by works and all of that, until we understand the foundation that has been laid by the chief speaker of the Gentiles, Shaul, who the world calls Paul. Okay? Verse 26. chapter 1, Romans, verse 26. For this cause Yah gave them up to vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. You see that? The women change. That's why we see today lesbianism is on the uprise. You know, homosexuality is on the uprise. You know, because they change the natural use into that which is against nature. I mean, you don't have to hate a person, but when somebody does something that's not natural, your body, your makeup and your body tells you, okay, who you are internally, okay? Your reproductive system tells you who you are. If you have to get an operation to change things around to make it be what you want it to be, then you are basically going against nature, is what he's saying here. Verse 27, and likewise also the men leaving the natural use of women, burning their lust one towards another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves the recompense of their error, which was meet. Okay, so now Shaul was not homophobic, but he basically was telling them that the natural use that why man was made, men have turned away from that natural use. Let's go to verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain Yah in their knowledge, Yah gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. You see that? So when a person don't want to obey Yah's law, he will soon give them over to a reprobated mind to where they can do the things that which are not convenient. Okay? Verse 29. Here's some heavy things that Shaul was saying in his Romans, the first chapter. Okay? This, for him to be saying, okay, for those that say we saved by grace, brother, not by works, we don't have to obey. All we have to do is just believe. It don't seem like to me Paul's talking that right here, does it? He's telling them what they've done. He says he gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. And because he said, and being filled with unrighteousness, fornication, right? Wickedness, that covers a whole spectrum of things, right? Covetousness, wanting something that is not yours, wanting somebody else's property. Maliciousness, is self-explanatory. Full of envy, jealousy. There's a lot of envy and jealousy. Murder, physically murdering people, as well as verbally murdering people's character, detriment of character, right? Debate, right? Deceit. And I want to just add, debating, he's not talking about disproving a person who is misinterpreting or misrepresenting the word of life, because Shaul debated a lot of people, especially some Israelites brothers. Okay, now let's continue. Deceit says malignity and whisperers, tale-bearers, or backbiters, or gossipers, and malignity, people that are just plain up straight evil, just do things to be vindictive, right? Backbiters, haters of Yah, despiteful, proud, right? Boasters, inventors of evil things. So boasters and proud and braggadocious, full of self-worship, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents. Lawlessness is in the land. The parents don't have no control over the kids because the law is saying you can't chastise that child. You know, you can't beat that child. That child needs to live. You know, you're so cruel, right? Okay, all these things we see, right? Okay, now Verse 31. Without understanding, covenant breakers. Without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of Yah, that they which commit such things, this is our dear beloved brother Shaul talking about works. They which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. Does this sound like a doctrine of I'm saved by grace and I don't have to work? I mean, he went through the detail to explain what working in the flesh is. So maybe, just maybe, we're misinterpreting, using that phraseology I so often hear. Maybe we're misinterpreting what grace is. Now, once again, we have the foundation for what grace. We went through the definition in the earlier part of this tape. You can back this up and go back to the beginning and see the definition of what grace is, which is the divine influence upon the heart, which reflects itself in the light. So this is what Shaul was talking about. Now let's go to chapter 2, Romans chapter 2, verse 1. Therefore thou art inexcusable, O man, whoever you are that judges, for wherein you judge another, you condemn yourself. Okay? That's not saying we're not supposed to judge people. It is every man, the whole duty of man can be summed up in, I think it's in Ecclesiastes, where it says, this is the whole duty of man: fear Yah and keep his commandments. Not break his commandments. Fear Yah and keep his commandments. Romans 2 and 2. But we are sure that the judgment of Yah is according to truth against them which commit such things. This dear beloved brother Shaul is not saying you don't have to obey. Okay, so we don't get that. So far, we're not hearing him saying you don't have to obey. We're hearing him say that the grace was given to us to obey. And thinkest thou this, O man, that judgeth them which do such things, and does the same, that you shall escape the judgment of Elohim? Absolutely. So we're not to judge people if we are not doing the same thing. We are enforcers. I'll give you a real good contemporary comparison. A police officer is not a judge. He enforces the law. He makes sure people are aware of the law. Okay? And sometimes the police will stop you and give you a warning. Sometimes the police will stop you. He might give you a ticket, right? But his job is not to be the judge, because if he gives you a ticket, you have a right to go before the judge to get a trial to see whether or not the sentence that was imposed upon you is a righteous, or it is a justifiable sentence. If you follow the law, you're okay. But when you break the law and you get stopped by the police or the enforcer, now he has to write you a ticket, and then you have the right to go to court to fight the ticket before the judge. Okay? So people who are teachers of the Bible are not judges. We are what? Enforcers of the law. Verse 4. Or despiseth you the riches of his goodness and forbearance and long suffering, not knowing that the goodness of Yah leadeth you to repentance? You see, that's what the grace does. It comes on your heart to convict you of that which is wrong, and then for us to do what? To turn from that wicked way. Right? 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray, seek my face, and do what? Turn from their wicked ways. Not saying we're saved by grace, brother. We don't have to worry about that. That was all nailed to the tree. He said, if you would humble yourselves and pray, seek his face, and turn from your wicked ways, is what he's saying. Romans 2:11. For there is no respect of persons with Yah. For as many as have sinned without the law shall also perish without the law. As many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law. You see. So no one is escaping. You say, well, I don't know the law. Well, you're not escaping because you're going to perish. He says if you don't have the law, you're going to perish without the law. And if you have the law and you disobey the law, you're going to be judged by the law. So we all are going to be judged. So ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? Verse 13, for not the hearers of the law are just before Yah, but the doers of the law shall be justified. For when the Gentiles which have not the law, listen to this now, do by nature the things contained in the law. This is what we just been talking about this whole time. What by nature, your nature tells you. You're not naughty by nature. Okay? Your nature, your true nature, your spiritual nature knows what's right. Now we allow ourselves to be impacted by our conscious and subconscious and by our thought processes that is impacted or affected by the things in which we attend ourselves to and apply as a way of life for ourselves, right? Now, verse 15, which show the work of the law written in their hearts. You see, the law is written in the hearts. Their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the mean, while accusing or else excusing one another. Verse 16, in the day when Yah shall judge the secrets of men by Yahshuwah the MessiYah, according to my gospel. Verse 17, behold, thou art called a Yahudim, and rest in the law, and makest your boast in Elohim, and knows his will, and approve the things that are more excellent, being instructed out of the law. See that? He's not nailing the law to the tree. Verse 19, and art confident that thou art thyself art a guide of the blind, a light of them which are in darkness, an instructor of the foolish, a teacher of babes, which has the form of knowledge and of the truth of the law. Verse 21, thou therefore which teacheth another, teachest thou not thyself? Thou hast preached a man should not steal. Do you steal? Thou hast said a man should not commit adultery. Do you commit adultery? Thou abhorrest idols. Do you commit sacrilege? Thou that makest your boast of the law through breaking the law dishonors Elohim. See that? For the name of Yah is blasphemed among the Gentiles through you, as it is written. For circumcision verily profiteth you if you keep the law. But if you be a breaker of the law, your circumcision is made uncircumcision. That's self-explanatory. So what Shaul is not saying that you should not circumcise your flesh. That's not what he's saying. He's saying if you circumcise your flesh and you break the law, what are you profiting? So he's saying that we have an obligation and a responsibility to obey, not to break, right? Verse 26, therefore, if uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law, shall not be his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision? Right, the true circumcision, which is the spiritual circumcision. Okay? And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge you, who by the letter and circumcision does transgress the law? For he is not a Yahudim, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision which is outward in the flesh, which is a fact. He's saying things that Torah speaks on. Okay? Every Israelite wasn't saved. you broke the law. Just because you were a natural, physical born Israelite didn't guarantee you entrance into the kingdom. The whole Israelite nation died in the wilderness, coming from Egypt, going into the promised land because of disobedience. So that's not a new understanding. That's something that has always been in fruition. Okay, now. But if a Yahudim, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart in the spirit and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men but of Yah. See that? Now, so Shaul is laying the foundation. He's telling us that this is what the law was designed to do. Your righteousness is not in the law, but you obey the law because you are righteous. If you say we're not under the law, then maybe you're not righteous, because a righteous person will do the deeds, is what he's saying here, of the law. You will be obedient. No, my salvation is not predicated on the law, but if I am a righteous person, if I am seeking to live the life of a believer, I'm going to walk as a believer walks, which is in obedience. This is all Shaul is saying.